True. Anyway, taking the blame. Yeah, I mean, I learned this. I mean, I think I was kind of started to get into it myself. Well, I first learned it explicitly, saw it written down in black and white by a guy called Robert Ringer, a libertarian. He's written a couple of books, one of which is Winning Through Intimidation. And that doesn't mean winning with intimidation. It means winning through it. It means winning in spite of intimidation. He changed the title of the book because it was ambiguous. But he wrote in there somewhere about, I think it was in that book anyway, he wrote about a story of, he had some people around to do some work to his house, and they dropped a ladder on his car. And of course, that was their fault. And he spent months arguing about it in court, spending thousands of dollars to try and prove his point because he was in the right. And they just ran rings around him. And eventually he realized in a moment of clarity, this is a waste of my fucking time. Yes, they've damaged my car. Yes, it's all their fault, but I ain't going to get the money. It's just not going to happen. And just walk away from it. And he then writes about how since that moment on, he's taking responsibility for everything. Anything goes wrong, yeah, all right, it's my fault. I should have been more careful, should have parked the car somewhere else. And he says, you know, it's hard to do at first because your ego. I'm in the right. I want to fucking see this through. That's my fucking car you've damaged. I want you to pay. But really, it's just easier to walk away and not worry. In some ways, a little bit like changing the name of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd have been douchebags, we could have dug our heels in. We could have argued about it. It says, yeah, we'll see you in court. But what was the point? It's much more profitable for us to say, yeah, hold our hands up. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Don't want to tread on your toes. We changed the name. It's no big deal. Right? Yeah. Everyone's fucking happy. And we can now focus on growing the business where we want to grow it instead of having this thing in the back of the mind of, are we pissing someone off unfairly? Are we treading on someone's toes unfairly? Are we going to get a solicitor's letter, which we don't have to deal with, which we possibly lose? It's just not worth it. So I've taken responsibility for everything that happens in my life since I can remember. Even though it's not my fault, it's my responsibility to fix it. Even when my mental health was fucked with anxiety and I needed help, my thing, the foremost thought in my mind was, yeah, I do need the help, but it's still my responsibility to get it fixed. No one else is going to do it for me. And it makes your life so much, it sounds kind of perverse almost, because it must be so fucking difficult because all that extra work and all that extra responsibility by definition. But it's actually makes your life so much easier. Because
completely freeing.
It is freeing because then you decide, do I bother about this or do I have to let it go? Is it unimportant? And then you realize how unimportant your ego is. It feels important. And you think about it, right? And everybody would have seen this and possibly experienced it. Neighbours will argue and spend tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds about maybe 2 or 3 inches in the boundary in their land. You know, move the fence back a foot. But why do they do this? It must be ego. It isn't about money. It's about fucking ego. Well, your ego comes at a price. You know, pride goeth before a fall. I just don't get it.
It is ego. It's 100% ego. It's the minute you let go of your ego, which is a lot harder than you may think, you realize how pathetic most situations are. As you just said, the arguments and the money around people arguing about inches of land here and there is just pathetic.
Yeah, sorry.
The best thing about taking full responsibility of everything that happens to you, to your business, to your life, is it focuses you on what you can and can't control. And most importantly, it focuses you on your sphere of control, what's inside, what's out. And then obviously you don't worry about the things that are outside of that sphere because there's fuck all you can do about them. But the shit that's inside your sphere, well, then you then have a choice to make. And realizing you always have a choice is freeing as well. And then you can make a decision whether you want to fight it. But what's the fucking point? Lose your ego, save your time, save your money, be happy, let it go. It's ridiculous the amount of time people waste with it. For example, staff, you know, a lot of business owners I see piss and moan about their staff. And they blame their staff for the poor sales of the company or the poor productivity. No, that's your fucking fault, dickhead. You chose to hire them. You've given the SOPs. You more than likely orchestrate the marketing plan to give them the lease to follow up with the sales scripts. it's your fucking fault. If one of your employee fucks up, it's not their fault, it's yours. And you have to think like that. And if that sounds backwards, well, you're not quite there yet, and I'm sorry. You need to read up on it.
You need to grow up.
Yeah.